Here's a fact to really make you think. 1%, just 1% of the world's population owns more than 63% of its entire wealth.
63%.
Yeah. 1%, often living in these, glass towers. Meanwhile, nearly half the world is struggling every single day just to put food on a plate. Steel plate sometimes.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet, in our conversations, even in our laws, we tend to talk about equality as if it's, well, as if it's already here. Like just saying all are equal makes it true.
Yeah.
Instantly, universally.
But is it? Really? Is it true for everyone, no matter where they happen to be born or the circumstances they find themselves in?
Exactly. Think about it. A little girl born in a really remote village somewhere, and maybe a boy born into a wealthy family in a big city with access to the best hospitals, best schools.
Mm-hmm.
Are their paths through life really going to be the same? Is the world going to open up to them with the same voice, the same opportunities, the same sort of inherent respect?
Probably not. And it's not just about those huge systemic things either, is it? You see it closer to home.
Oh, absolutely. Look closer in the quieter spaces, maybe in our classrooms or our busy offices, maybe even right there in our own homes.
Yeah.
Do we genuinely listen the same way to every single voice? Or are some people, well, are they always interrupted more, doubted more often, judged faster, maybe just because of who we think they are?
It makes me think equality isn't just a law somebody passed.
Sure.
It's not just a nice speech or, a cool slogan on a T-shirt.
Not at all.
It lives in the quiet moments, doesn't it? It's in the pauses we give people, or maybe the pauses we don't give. It's there when we decide who to hire, who we choose to hug even, who we really remember, and maybe who we, sometimes without even realizing it, just conveniently forget.
And that's really what we want to explore in this deep dive. We're going to try and walk through the many layers of equality,
Right.
from how the idea even started way back in history to its really complex reality today, from the black and white of law to the much messier, challenging demands of love and connection.
From skin to soul, as you put it in the outline.
Exactly. From skin to soul. We'll explore how this idea of equality was first born, where it failed, sometimes tragically, and maybe where it still breathes, quietly, often in really unexpected places.
Like where?
Like in acts of resistance, maybe in moments of poetry that capture something profound, or just in everyday acts of courage by ordinary people facing unfairness.
Okay. So, before we really jump in, maybe just take a moment, everyone listening. Pause with us.
Yeah.
Think, have you ever felt small in a room? Maybe like your voice didn't quite count. Now, this might be a bit tougher, but ask yourself, have you ever made someone else feel that way? Maybe without even meaning to, without any malice.
That's a hard question.
It is, because that right there, that's often where the real journey towards equality starts. Not just in big government policies or laws, but right here, inside us, in people.
So let's open this up. Let's really get into it.
Okay. I want to start with something that sounds simple, but I think it goes incredibly deep. Before we even talk about systems or laws or history, how does the very idea of inequality even pop into someone's head? When and how do we, as individuals, start feeling unequal? What's that first spark?
That's a really profound place to start. And I think the answer begins with something that drives all of us, even today. Ambition.
Ambition. How so?
Well, think about early humans. Even in the earliest tribes, people weren't just existing, not like animals focused only on the next meal or avoiding danger. There was always something more, kind of silent, powerful surge inside each person.
Okay.
This deep, inherent desire to shape their world somehow,
Yeah.
to carve out their own path, to grow beyond where they were right now.
So not just survival, but more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This ambition, at its core, it wasn't greed like we might think of it today. It was actually a fundamental survival tool. It was the drive to improve, to innovate, to adapt, maybe to contribute something new to the group. It was kind of a foundational seed for human evolution itself.
Right, that makes sense. That urge to contribute or excel or protect or make something new, that would be valuable for the whole group, wouldn't it? For survival, for progress.
Absolutely. It led to better tools, safer shelters, smarter ways of living together. But here's where the feeling of inequality starts to creep in.
Okay.
It begins whenever a person feels they aren't given a fair chance to pursue that potential, to do something they know they can do or something they deeply want to do, something they feel this strong inner pull towards.
So it's when that drive hits a wall.
Precisely. That's the moment. That clash between your own innate drive and some external barrier put in your path, often for reasons that feel unfair. That's where that first feeling of inequality is
That's
born.
really insightful. So if I'm getting this right, it's not just about looking around and seeing someone else has more stuff or a different role. It's more personal.
Much more personal.
It's when I want to do something or become something, reach for a possibility. And I can't, especially if I see someone else who seems no more capable than me being allowed to do it. That specific moment when you feel blocked or unfairly denied that chance, that's when this really deep, often painful feeling of, hey, this isn't equal, sinks in. It feels like a violation of that ambition you mentioned, a kind of existential frustration.
You've nailed it.
Yeah.
It's not just observing difference. It's recognizing these invisible, unfair barriers in the path of your own potential.
Yeah.
Or maybe the potential of others you see are just as capable.
Right.
And this process, this kind of spark of comparison, this awakening,
Yeah.
it probably happened even in the earliest human communities.
Can you give an example? Like, how might that have looked?
Okay, imagine a tribe, maybe tens of thousands of years ago. In this group, some people are always the ones allowed to try new things with tools, or they get to make the big decisions for everyone, or they're the only ones allowed to speak up in front of the elders when something important is discussed.
Okay, a hierarchy exists.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you have others in the same tribe, people who seem just as capable, just as smart, maybe even more so. But they're told flat out, no, you can't. It's just not your place.
And why? Just because.
Maybe because they weren't born into the chief's family, or they belong to a certain lineage, or maybe it's based on gender, some arbitrary rule.
Got it.
Now, imagine someone from another tribe visits. And in this other tribe, things are totally different. Everyone chips in ideas. Everyone gets a say in big decisions. Leadership isn't just about birth, it's about who's good at what.
A different system.
Exactly. And seeing that,
Yeah.
it acts like a powerful, maybe uncomfortable mirror. It reflects back on their own society. And suddenly, that feeling of inequality isn't just this personal frustration you've always lived with.
It becomes something more.
It becomes a profound realization, wait a minute, this can be different, the way we do things.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel fair anymore. It isn't the only way. And maybe it's not the right way.
So it's that shift in awareness, that new perspective opening your eyes until you see or want something different, something better, or just a different way of doing things. The system you're in just feels normal.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like it's just the way things are, the way they've always been, so it must be the way they should be.
Like living in a room with invisible walls until someone points out there's a world outside.
That's a great analogy. And sometimes those deep customs or social rules around us, they don't feel unequal at all. They just feel like the natural order until you put them side by side with something else, an alternative that works. Or until someone's own ambition, that inner drive to move forward, to grow, to create something, slams right into that unmoving wall of tradition.
Yeah.
Painfully.
Right.
It's very much like today, actually.
Yeah.
Think about the modern world. Someone applies for a great job. They're super skilled, got all the qualifications, the experience, the passion.
Yeah.
But they get rejected, not because they weren't good enough, but only because of their last name or their gender or their caste or maybe the color of their skin.
Okay. That happens.
That person who actively went for it, who had that ambition, they're going to feel a deep, burning sense of injustice, a powerful feeling of being unfairly held back.
Right. But what about someone who never even thought about applying?
Exactly. Someone who never even dreamed of that job, maybe never even knew such jobs existed for people like them. They won't feel that same sharp personal sting of inequality. They won't feel the denial because the desire or the ambition was never really activated in that direction.
So the feeling of inequality is really tied up with that ambition, that desire to move, and then being stopped.
Intrinsically linked. It comes from that deeply human desire to move, to evolve, to step forward, and then the painful denial of that very movement. It's the gut feeling of your potential being stifled.
Wow. So inequality isn't just some abstract social thing or a legal idea. It's a deeply emotional, gut-level experience,
Definitely.
born from wanting to grow, from that ambition, but being held back. The forces outside you, often invisible ones, like hitting a glass ceiling you didn't even know was there until you tried to stand up.
Exactly. Now, let's take this idea, this collision of ambition and barrier, and look at one of the oldest, most universal inequalities that shaped human history: gender roles.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Let's really look at it, maybe strip away some of the usual stories around it. Consider this. For thousands of years, almost everywhere, women have mostly been responsible for cooking, raising kids, getting water and fuel, taking care of the home, managing all the complex family emotions and relationships.
Yeah, the traditional picture.
These tasks have always been physically and emotionally demanding. Always. They required planning, incredible endurance, empathy, diplomacy sometimes, just to keep things running and keep everyone alive.
And they still are demanding, right?
Absolutely. Even today, cooking daily, calming a crying child, caring for someone sick, just keeping a household going. These are still hard, exhausting tasks. They take huge effort and resilience. But often, they're not really seen or valued in the same way as other work.
Okay, so what about the traditional male roles?
Well, back in ancient times, yeah, men hunted dangerous animals. They fought other groups. They built shelters. Undeniably tough, risky jobs needing strength and courage.
Right.
But then, slowly, with better tools, better weapons, machines, complex social systems, those roles started to change.
How so?
They became physically safer, often easier, and crucially, they became more powerful socially and politically. Hunting eventually turned into farming, getting into managing agriculture. Fighting on the battlefield shifted towards strategy, diplomacy, political leadership.
So a shift from physical risk to something else.
Kind of. Men moved, metaphorically, from the tough physical field to the often more comfortable office. From swinging a sword to wielding a pen, which often held way more influence and brought bigger rewards.
Ah, I see. Less physical demand, but more social power and money.
Often, yes. And women, watching this transformation happen over generations, they saw it. They saw these new roles safer, more respected, better rewarded, often less physically draining, were still closed off to them.
And the reason?
Always the same old story, echoing down the years because of tradition.
Yeah.
Because of old beliefs about what women are like, because that's not your role. And there it is again, that pattern, sharp and clear.
Ambition meets barrier.
Comparison meets unfairness. And that deep, nagging feeling of inequality just gets cemented, felt by countless women over centuries.
And then comes agriculture, this huge shift. About 10,000 years ago, humans settle down, start farming, land becomes super valuable, something to own.
Yes, a pivotal moment.
And with ownership came the first real seeds of systemic inequality. Class hierarchies, planted right in the soil.
Quite literally, the flexible, nomadic tribe became a fixed village. What was fluid became rigid. Customs got deeper, turning into rituals you couldn't break. Roles hardened, passed down through families, whether you liked it or not.
So it became harder to change things.
Much harder. And when progress, new ideas, new tech tried to push through, these old customs and stereotypes now really dug in, resisted. They clashed with the new possibilities. It's like the very foundation of settled society was poured into an unequal mold from the start.
Okay, but it's important to say, nature is diverse, right? People aren't all the same.
Absolutely. That's a crucial point. Nature is full of difference. No two people are identical. Different abilities, different genders, personalities, strengths, talents. Someone's taller, someone learns quicker, someone's a natural leader. That's undeniable. But here's the critical difference. Nature never turned those differences into a system of worth, a hierarchy. A tree doesn't judge a rock as inferior. A river doesn't think a mountain is superior. They just are, part of the ecosystem.
Okay, so society did that.
Society did that. We took those natural differences and deliberately stuck value tags on them. Rigid, often harmful tags. Superior, inferior, ideal, unacceptable, deserves more, deserves less.
Based on birth or identity.
Exactly. And that's the real tragedy here, because inequality didn't just happen by accident. It wasn't some mistake.
It was designed.
It was designed. It was shaped. It was protected, often fiercely, sometimes violently. And in its worst forms, it was even worshipped. Made sacred, made to seem like God's plan, making it incredibly hard to question.
That's Yeah, that's unsettling. How something so unfair, when it's practiced for centuries, woven into daily life, into identity, starts to look natural.
Exactly.
Not like a crime or a system someone built, but like a biological fact. Like, that's just how things are. It becomes invisible.
Yes. And that's a chilling way inequality keeps going, sinks its roots so deep. Some of the oldest inequalities weren't initially enforced with chains or obvious violence.
They were enforced with,
With stories,
wow,
with deeply embedded beliefs, with the powerful illusion of nature.
what kind of stories?
Think about the narratives told over and over. Women are just naturally emotional, fragile, weak, made for babies in kitchens, so obviously not suited for logic, leadership, or public power.
Yeah.
Or that Black people are naturally rhythmic, good with their hands, maybe a bit childlike, so clearly less intellectual, less rational, not meant to be in charge.
Or caste narrative.
Or that lower castes were divinely created to serve, born to obey, inherently polluted, so their place is fixed, forever subservient. These weren't just stray thoughts. They were carefully built ideologies, shared, believed, taught.
So inequality didn't always need brute force, just repeating the lie over and over until people believed it, even the people being oppressed.
Precisely. Tell a lie long enough, consistently enough, and it doesn't just become a rule in society. It becomes someone's role. Deeply, terrifyingly, inside their own mind, they start to believe it's their truth.
And these lies were so powerful because they sounded reasonable or even kind.
Often, yes. They were framed as protection, not restriction. Women weren't denied education. They were being shielded from the harsh world, from difficult thoughts.
Right.
Black people weren't enslaved. They were being helped, brought to civilization, given purpose. Servants weren't poor and exploited. They were simple and content with their natural place, doing the work they were meant for.
And unbelievably, 1,000 years later, people still believe versions of these scripts in some places. They're like inherited truths.
And that is precisely why the most dangerous inequality is the one that doesn't feel like inequality at all.
Because it feels
Normal, natural,
Yeah.
part of the way things are. It feels, especially to those who benefit or are just used to it, completely justified, seamless, invisible.
But wait, hang on. Today, if someone stood up and seriously said, men are just smarter than women, or Black people are dancers, not thinkers, or some castes are born to serve, most people, even kids, would immediately feel like, whoa, that's wrong.
Yes, generally.
We now mostly see those rigid divisions, gender, race, caste as obvious violations of basic human dignity, humanity. So how did that shift? When did we wake up from that normalcy? What made the invisible walls visible?
It wasn't like we all suddenly became perfect or had some global aha moment all at once.
So what was it?
The shift happened because somewhere, often quietly, often against huge odds, someone was already doing it differently. They were a living, breathing counterexample. They were proving the lie wrong, not just with arguments, but with their life.
Like, give me some examples.
Think of a woman who, against all expectations, led a successful revolution, showing leadership isn't about gender. Or a Black man who, despite every barrier, solved complex math problems, shattering myths about intellect.
Okay.
Or maybe a girl from the slums who painted with incredible talent, proving genius ignores class. Or an indigenous tribe that accepted gender fluidity long before we talked about it, showing rigid roles were cultural, not biological. Or an enslaved person who wrote poetry that transcended their chains, reminding everyone of the unbreakable human spirit.
So it's the alternative example.
Yes, inequality starts to crack.
Yeah.
Not just because of arguments or protests, those are vital too. It cracks because of alternative.
Yeah.
Suddenly you see with your own eyes what everyone called natural was really just familiar.
Just the way it had always been done, the story always told.
Exactly. And what we now call equal, well, it was always possible. It was always there as a potential, just waiting for someone brave enough to show it, to live it.
So, the biggest threat to an old injustice isn't just fighting it head on, it's creating and showing a new example. A living, breathing alternative that proves another way is possible.
That's really powerful.
It is. It challenges the very foundation of the old belief.
You know, looking back, it really does feel like inequality and power just walked hand in hand through history. At the very beginning, for early humans, maybe things were more equal. Not out of fairness, maybe, but necessity.
That's likely true. The brutal demands of just surviving probably didn't leave much room for big hierarchies. You hunted together, gathered together, shared what you found. Everyone had to pull their weight for the group to make it. Every pair of hands counted.
But then something changed, fundamentally.
Yes. Then came surplus. That was the real game changer. The moment humans started consistently storing grain, accumulating more than they needed right away, that's when inequality really began to brew.
How did surplus lead to inequality?
Suddenly, someone had more. More food, more tools, more resources. And whoever had more had power. They had leverage. They could decide who got what. The power to decide.
Exactly. And that's when roles started shifting dramatically. Kings emerged not just leaders chosen by the group, but rulers demanding obedience. Priests rose up, claiming they spoke for the gods, giving them authority. Warriors stood guard, not just protecting everyone, but enforcing the new order, protecting the wealth of the few.
So they weren't just serving anymore.
They began to rule, to protect their stuff, to judge others. And very quickly, powerful myths and elaborate stories were spun, specifically designed to make this new hierarchy look natural or divine or just absolutely necessary for society not to fall apart.
So, stories again. They became weapons of control.
Absolutely. Probably the most powerful weapon humans ever invented. More powerful than swords or machines, because they shaped how people thought.
What kind of stories?
Stories that said, the king is chosen by God, his power is divine, you must obey. Or, the priest speaks for the heavens, challenge him and you challenge God. Stories that locked in unfair social structures like caste systems. This group came from the creator's head. They're wise. This group from the feet. They must serve. It's destiny.
And later, racial justifications too.
Yes. Some races are just naturally meant to rule, others to serve. That's just how they are. These weren't just campfire tales. They were organized systems of belief, crafted to make power imbalances seem legitimate, inevitable.
I'm thinking of ancient Egypt. The pharaoh seen as a living god, absolute power, while millions built those huge pyramids for him, often in brutal conditions.
A perfect example. Their suffering justified by his divinity.
Or the Indian caste system, dictating your whole life from birth job, status, who you could marry, even touch.
For millennia. Or European monarchies, the royals were blue-blooded, fundamentally different from the earthbound peasants who were practically property.
So every era found its own excuse.
Pretty much. Every civilization found ways to justify inequality. Sometimes linking it to religion, God wants it this way. Sometimes using flawed reason, it's logical, some are just naturally better leaders. And very often arguing it was needed for order or stability.
It's strange how often inequality hides behind the idea of stability, isn't it?
It is. Positioning itself as the only way to prevent chaos, when often, in the long run, it's the very thing causing resentment and unrest. A cruel irony.
So inequality wasn't just a mistake. It was manufactured, deliberately, and constantly justified by those at the top.
Exactly. And once a few got a taste of that power that came with surplus and control, they worked hard to keep it, often by dividing everyone else so they couldn't unite against the system.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to something that feels very modern but maybe has these same old echoes. Beauty and body inequality.
Ah, yes. Very relevant today.
Look at how society ranks looks. Thin often seen as better than fat. Fair skin preferred over dark, tall over short. Why? Is it just because we notice the difference?
It starts there, maybe. We notice difference. But then power steps in and immediately turns that simple difference into a ranking, a hierarchy. Some physical traits get boosted, others get subtly or not so subtly put down, devalued.
We definitely live in a world obsessed with looks, don't we? Driven by images everywhere.
Absolutely. Bombarded daily.
Yeah.
And it's a world where something as superficial as a job applicant's skin tone or their accent, or even how sincere their smile seems, can quietly steer their whole career.
Yeah.
It's a world where models are celebrated, showered with wealth and fame, their faces everywhere. While the people doing essential manual labor, building our roads, cleaning our cities, growing food, are often invisible, ignored, their work seen as less valuable.
That bias affects who gets opportunities, who gets listened to, whose presence even matters.
It really does. And even the work we do gets split by this hierarchy.
How do you mean?
The person designing a cool new gadget in a nice office, they're hailed as a creative genius, an innovator.
Yeah.
Their brain power is highly rewarded. But the person actually building that gadget, working with their hands, maybe in tough conditions, they're just labeled unskilled labor.
As if it takes no skill, no thought, no effort.
Exactly. That label itself creates and reinforces inequality, devaluing vital work just by naming it differently.
So inequality isn't just one big wall we can see.
No, it's more like a maze. Complex, multi-layered, full of shadows and hidden rules you might not even know exist. And sometimes the doors are locked from the inside. People internalize the divisions, the judgments, making it even harder to break out.
Let's bring it right down to daily life. Things we might see every day but not really register. Like, why does a domestic worker, often a woman, have to take her shoes off at the door, but the homeowner walks right in wearing expensive boots?
That's a subtle one, but powerful. It reinforces status. A quiet power play.
Or why is a manager being firm called assertive, but a worker saying the same thing is arrogant or rude?
Exactly. Same behavior, different judgment based on position. It's not just personality quirks. It's hierarchy in action, rituals of inequality.
Or even now, the number of Instagram followers someone has suddenly deciding how much respect they get in real life.
It's bizarre, isn't it? An arbitrary digital number dictating real-world value.
Or why is the receptionist expected to smile all day, be welcoming, while the CEO can be silent, even rude, and still be called strong or decisive?
These aren't just about manners. They're the modern masks of inequality, showing who matters and who doesn't in our everyday interactions. A silent language.
So this is really the inequality of our time. It's not only about money, though, that's still huge.
Well, still huge.
But it's also inequality of visibility, of voice, of just being seen as important or relevant.
And social media, which promised connection for everyone, has ironically become a kind of digital caste system.
How so?
Blue ticks aren't just verification anymore. They're like status crowns, giving instant authority. Likes are the new currency, measuring social worth. Beauty, wealth, influence, they all cluster together online, amplifying each other, making the powerful even more powerful.
And those left behind.
Silence. An ignored silence follows those. Without the blue tick, without the viral post, their voices get drowned out.
We think we're equal because we all have phones, we can all get online.
But it's becoming clearer and clearer. Not everyone has a voice that actually carries weight.
And even if they speak, not every voice is truly heard above the noise.
Tragically, no.
You know, often when we talk inequality, people just think money, rich versus poor, skyscrapers versus slums, and they think that's the whole story.
Right, the economic part is very visible.
But this idea, someone having more or less, being valued more or less, it goes much deeper than just cash, doesn't it? You mentioned three big shadows: social, political, and economic. Can you break those down?
Yes, absolutely. It's crucial to see them distinctly, but also how they connect. Let's start with social inequality.
Okay.
This is when people aren't treated equally just because of who they are at birth, their identity, or how they look, things they can't choose or change. It's about how society, often through unwritten rules, decides who gets to sit where, literally or figuratively.
Who speaks first? Who gets listened to?
Exactly. And who is just seen as less without any fault or lack of ability. It's about how respect is given out based on these arbitrary social markers.
Can you give historical examples?
Sure. Think back to India's caste system, rigidly defining your job, status, purity, who you could even interact with, all based on birth. Or medieval Europe, nobility versus peasants, almost zero chance to move up. Or Confucian China, strict hierarchies. Old over young, man over woman, deeply ingrained in everyday life.
These weren't just rules, they were about how people were seen.
Deeply ingrained social perception. Who was better or worse in society's eyes?
Even philosophers argued about this. Some justified it.
Surprisingly, yes. Plato, for instance, talked about natural divisions, people having gold, silver, or bronze souls determining their role. He saw it as necessary for a stable state. It gave intellectual cover for existing hierarchies.
Wow, that's unexpected.
But others fought back hard against that idea. Jean-Jacques Rousseau famously said man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains.
What chains was he talking about?
Those invisible but strong chains of social class, inherited status, honor or dishonor assigned at birth. He argued these social divisions, not nature, were what truly trapped people.
And we still see echoes today.
Definitely. Who gets invited to speak on the big stage, whose ideas get amplified, who's expected to serve the tea quietly in meetings, who's told they need to look a certain way or change their accent or even their name just to fit in and get ahead.
These are modern reflections of those old social inequalities.
Exactly. Still silently dictating who belongs and who's an outsider.
Okay, next one. Political inequality. This feels like it cuts deep for many people. It's about voice and power, right?
Fundamentally, it dictates who gets to vote, whose vote actually matters, who gets to write the laws we all live under, who gets heard in the halls of power, and, crucially, who gets systematically silenced, denied a real say in shaping their own lives in society. It's about agency.
Where do we see this historically?
Look at ancient Athens, the birthplace of democracy. But only adult male citizens could vote. No women, no slaves, no foreigners. A tiny fraction had a say.
Right?
Or empires, where kings ruled by divine right, absolute power, zero accountability. And even today, think about dictatorships, military regimes, or even subtle bureaucratic systems that concentrate power in the hands of a few. It's not just about voting, it's about real influence.
And women's political rights. That's a huge historical example.
Absolutely huge. For centuries, in most places, women had no vote, no independent legal standing. They were considered represented by their fathers or husbands, their voices legally erased.
And even now, look at parliaments, boardrooms. Still mostly men, right? Even though women are half the population.
Overwhelmingly. And that imbalance affects every single policy, from healthcare to education to the economy.
Were there thinkers who really challenged this?
Oh, yes. People like Mary Wollstonecraft back in the 18th century arguing fiercely for women's rationality and rights. Simone de Beauvoir in the 20th, dissecting how society constructs woman as the other. And more recently, bell hooks, linking gender oppression with race and class.
And they had that phrase, the personal is political. What did that really mean?
It meant that even the most private aspects of a woman's life, her education, her body, her family choices, were deeply shaped and often restricted by public laws and political power structures controlled mostly by men. Her personal life wasn't separate from politics. It was a direct result of political inequality. Lack of public voice meant limits in private life.
Okay, now the third one, economic inequality. This is the one we see most easily, I think. The stark differences.
Yes, the visual contrast is often shocking. Skyscrapers next to shanty towns, people throwing away food while others starve. It's right there.
And this isn't new either.
Not at all. Think feudal societies. Lords owned everything. Serfs worked the land just to survive, tied to it. Or industrial Europe. Factory owners getting fabulously wealthy while children worked in horrific conditions for almost nothing.
Karl Marx saw this very clearly, didn't he?
He did. He looked past individual poverty and saw systemic conflict. His famous line, "The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggle." He argued societies are fundamentally divided by economics, who owns the factories, the land, the capital, versus who only has their labor to sell.
He saw inequality as built into the system, leading to conflict.
Exactly. He saw it as the engine of capitalism, driving perpetual struggle. And you still hear echoes of that today. Maybe in the gig economy, a few own the platforms, many sell their precarious labor.
And today's numbers are just wild. The richest 1% owning over half the world's wealth. In India, the top 1% owning over 40%, while the bottom half own just 3%.
The scale is staggering, almost impossible to truly grasp. Marx dreamed of a classless society, but capitalism adapted, and the gap in many ways grew wider again.
And it's not just about income, is it?
No. Today, economic inequality is also profoundly about access. Access to good education, quality healthcare, real opportunities, even basic technology. Think about the tech divide, who gets to code the apps and build wealth, and who just delivers the food for low wages. It's a fundamental split in value and opportunity.
So these three faces, social, political, economic, they're distinct, but they overlap constantly.
Almost always intertwined. If you're, say, a woman from a poor, marginalized community, you often feel all three layers pressing down at once. They compound each other, kind of triple disadvantage.
Felt together, silently, every day, making it so hard to break free.
Exactly. So the real question for us, for everyone listening, is, do we actually see these interconnected inequalities? Or have we just gotten used to them? So used to the blur of injustice that it feels like normal background noise? Are we really aware of how deeply they shape real lives right now?
It's a challenge to our own awareness, isn't it?
It really is.
It's strange, though. If you ask almost anyone today, they'll say, yeah, I believe in equality. It's in our laws, taught in schools, politicians talk about it all the time.
It's a universally approved ideal on the surface.
Right. But then, look around. Glaring inequality everywhere. Wealth, education, work, health, status. So, couldn't we just throw our hands up and say, look, inequality is just natural, it's part of life, maybe we should just accept it?
That's a really common thought. Understandable, even. Because, yes, life is full of differences. People aren't identical clones.
We're biologically different.
Exactly. Some are taller, stronger, learn faster, speak differently. That's just human diversity. Beautiful, even. But here's the absolute key point. Those natural biological differences are not the root cause of inequality.
They're not. Then what is?
Inequality begins when we take those natural differences and treat them as hierarchies. When we decide one difference is better or superior and another is worse or inferior. When we build a fixed social order based on them and assign unequal value to people.
Okay, so difference is natural. But inequality, the ranking, the disadvantaging, that's a choice. Something we built?
Precisely. Think historically again. In ancient times, sure, differences in strength or certain skills, being a great hunter, a wise elder, a fast runner, were important for the group's survival. Valuable natural variations.
Right.
But as societies developed better tools, complex systems, advanced technology, those initial physical or natural gaps started to matter less, practically speaking.
How so?
Well, today, you don't need to be physically massive to build a huge bridge. Machines do the heavy lifting. You don't need to be an amazing runner to get a message across town fast. We have phones and networks. The direct relevance of many purely biological differences shrinks.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the social gaps, the inequalities we constructed based on things like gender, race, class, those often stay put or even get wider, stubbornly.
Even as the natural reasons become less relevant.
Exactly. And that's where pursuing equality becomes a profound societal responsibility. Not just a nice idea. It's about actively dismantling the unfair structures we built, which no longer reflect, if they ever did, natural necessity.
So, as society gets more advanced, the natural limits should matter less. But the social gaps grow. That's the paradox. Kind of backwards.
That is the paradox we face. The philosopher John Rawls put it very starkly. He said inequalities like some people having much more wealth or power are acceptable only if they somehow benefit the least advantaged members of society.
Only if the wealth at the top helps lift the bottom.
Essentially, yes. It can only be morally justified if the system works to improve the lives of those who have the least, creating a net benefit for everyone.
But that's often not what we see, is it?
Far too often we see the opposite. Wealth and power accumulating at the top seems to make things harder, not easier, for those at the bottom. The gap widens.
Can you give a clear example? How does a simple difference in starting point turn into this structural inequality, something that feels more like injustice than just bad luck?
Sure. Let's picture two kids, both born with potential, curiosity, wanting to learn. One grows up in a home full of books, great health care, fast internet, parents or mentors guiding them.
Okay, privileged start.
The other child, born elsewhere, maybe in a poor or marginalized area, has none of that. No books, patchy health care, maybe no internet, no mentors.
Right. Different starting blocks?
Now, some might just shrug and say, well, that's life. Some kids are lucky, some aren't.
Yeah, people say that.
But if that second child, through no fault of their own, never gets a real chance to rise, if they never get seen, never get heard, never get the education or resources they need to fulfill their potential, if the system itself, actively or passively, keeps them down.
Then it's not just luck anymore.
Exactly. Then we're not talking about natural difference. We're talking about deep structural inequality. Yeah. Systems that systematically deny opportunity, creating permanent disadvantage. The luck has become a locked gate.
Okay. So, boiling it down, equality isn't about making everyone the same. That would be absurd. It's about fairness, real opportunity.
Exactly. It's not about sameness. Sameness ignores our amazing diversity. Amartya Sen, the Nobel economist, put it beautifully. Equality isn't about everyone having the same stuff. It's about everyone having the real freedom to live the kind of life they actually value.
Real freedom to choose their path.
Yes. Enabling people to make genuine choices, not choices dictated or limited by unfair social barriers, poverty, or lack of political voice. This is why people fight so hard for equality, not because it denies our differences, but because it respects our shared dignity, our inherent worth. It lets our differences flourish, but without the damaging hierarchies.
I get it now. Inequality might look natural sometimes, or people try to make it seem that way, but so much of it is man-made, built over time.
Rightly so.
And equality isn't about forcing everyone into the same mold or denying unique talents. It's about creating the space, the conditions for everyone's potential to blossom, letting every flower bloom in its own way.
Beautifully put. That's the heart of it. Equality is like a compassionate lens. It helps us humanize the world, see the worth in everyone, instead of just sorting people into layers of winners and losers in some cruel game where the rules were fixed from the start.
We've dug into this for a while now. History, modern life, the different types, social, political, economic, emotional. It feels huge.
Complex.
Deeply so.
So,
Right.
what is equality, really? After all this, how do we actually define it in a way that captures its real meaning, its challenge?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because how we define it shapes what we do. At its core, equality is not about making everyone identical. That's a common misunderstanding, makes it sound boring or unrealistic.
Right, not clones.
No. Instead, it's about giving everyone the equal opportunity to blossom, to become the best, fullest version of who they can be, without unfair, artificial walls holding them back because of things they can't control, birth, gender, race, whatever. It's about nurturing the capabilities inside every person.
Is there like a formal definition? Well, the United Nations puts it something like, ensuring that every individual has an equal opportunity to make the most of their lives and talents. Focus on opportunity, realizing potential, removing obstacles.
Okay.
And Amartya Sen, who we mentioned, added more depth with his capability approach. He said, equality isn't just about what people have resources, money. It's about what they can actually do with what they have.
What they can do, what does that mean?
It means just giving everyone the same starting kit isn't enough if some people lack the basic ability or conditions to use it.
Yeah.
If someone's constantly hungry or homeless or silenced, struggling just to survive, then talking about equal freedom feels empty, maybe even cruel.
Right. Freedom doesn't mean much if you can't eat.
Exactly. True equality creates the basic conditions where people can genuinely grow, speak their minds without fear, feel safe and valued, and live their lives with dignity. That inherent dignity is key.
That raises an interesting point, a kind of paradox maybe. If we're aiming for equality, but we treat everyone the exact same way, always, could that sometimes be unfair? Could it actually lead to less equality?
You've hit on a really critical, nuanced point. It challenges the simple view.
So should we sometimes treat people differently based on their needs, their context, to actually achieve equality? It sounds contradictory.
It does sound contradictory, but you're onto something vital. Absolutely. We are not all the same physically or biologically. And crucially, our social starting points are wildly different. Some people, some groups, inherit generations of privileged, unearned advantages, making their path easier.
While others
carry deep generational wounds, the lasting impact of historical oppression, systemic disadvantage, making their path incredibly steep and difficult.
So treating those two groups identically
Would be to pretend those differences and starting points don't exist. It would actually perpetuate the inequality we want to fix. It's unfairness disguised as fairness.
So genuine equality sometimes means different treatment.
It means giving different people what they specifically need to stand tall, to reach the same starting line as others, to have a real shot.
Can you give examples?
Sure. Think of a student from a really under-resourced school. No books, no tech. They might need more support, extra tutoring, maybe even free meals, compared to a student from a wealthy school who had everything. Giving them both the same exam without addressing that difference is unfair.
Okay, makes sense.
Or a woman returning to work after maternity leave. She's faced historical barriers, might be juggling childcare, she might need flexible hours or childcare support or specific retraining to get back on track without penalty. Different support for professional parity.
Right.
Or a community oppressed for centuries because of race or caste-denied land, education, respect, They might need specific policies like affirmative action to help them catch up, access resources they were denied. It's not about unfair advantage. It's about correcting centuries of disadvantage.
Okay, so targeted support to level the field.
But, and this is the absolute bedrock, even if our paths are different, even if we need different support, our inherent human dignity must always be identical.
That's non-negotiable.
Absolutely non-negotiable, the one constant. Equality is also fundamentally about giving identical, unconditional dignity to everyone, no matter their gender, color, wealth, job, or past wounds. Every single human deserves that dignity just by existing.
Different support, but always the same. Unwavering respect. That feels like a really important distinction.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
Because real equality begins when respect isn't a favor we grant, but an ingrained habit, an automatic response, a fundamental way of seeing every single person, recognizing that shared humanity that connects us all.
Okay. Before we wrap up this really deep dive, can I ask something simple but maybe really important? After going through all these layers, history, modern life, the types of inequality, what are we actually trying to achieve with this whole big idea? What's the ultimate goal, the destination of this long journey?
Yes. Let's pause on that. Because it gives meaning to everything we've discussed, all the struggles. What are we really aiming for? I think it boils down to a few key things.
Like what?
First, human dignity, the absolute foundation. Every single person, CEO or cleaner, treated with equal inherent respect, feeling seen, valued, like they matter. Not as a privilege, but as a birthright.
Got it. Dignity first.
Second, freedom and choice. People living life on their own terms, charting their own course, making real decisions, not having their future dictated by labels, gender, caste, class, color, or circumstances they didn't choose. That girl from the village dreaming of being a pilot. She should have a real shot, without barriers or ridicule. Her ambition shouldn't be crushed by her origins.
Makes sense. Freedom to be.
Third, justice and fairness. Actively breaking down systems, overt or subtle, that reward privilege and punish poverty or disadvantage. Making sure a child born in a slum doesn't lose the race before it even starts. Leveling that playing field, actively.
Right, dismantling unfair systems.
Fourth, social harmony. A society where people don't hate or discriminate based on labels or differences. Where diversity isn't seen as a threat, but celebrated. Like a shared song where all the different voices make the music richer, more vibrant. Every note contributes.
Harmony through diversity. Nice.
And fifth, progress for all. Recognizing that when talent, scientific, artistic, entrepreneurial, whatever, isn't blocked by artificial barriers, everyone benefits. Society rises. Imagine the contributions if that Dalit scientist, that poor rural artist, that tribal entrepreneur got the same chances, the same investment as someone privileged. The whole world would thrive. We unlock so much potential.
Yeah, that's a truly beautiful vision. Really paints a picture of what's possible.
Yeah.
But how do we do it? How do we make that happen? What can we actually do as people, communities, societies, governments to push for that kind of equality? It feels massive.
It is massive. You're right. There's no magic bullet, no single road. It's complex, needs effort on many fronts, but there are concrete steps we can take together every day to move closer.
Okay, what are some of those paths?
First, there's formal equality, the basic idea that everyone's equal under the law, essential starting point. In court, rich or poor, theoretically treated the same.
But we know that doesn't always happen in practice.
Exactly. It's necessary, but not sufficient. It's like having the same race rules, but some start miles behind. Formal equality alone can be blind to those starting disadvantages. A sometimes hollow promise, if that's all there is.
So what else?
That brings us to substantive equality. Sometimes real equality means treating people differently based on their needs to get a genuinely fair outcome.
Like the examples you gave before.
Yes. The student without electricity needing extra support. The woman returning from maternity leave needing flexible hours. The mantra is different treatment, but always the same respect. Compassionate equality, not blind equality that pretends everyone starts equal.
Okay, and then affirmative action.
Yes, affirmative action or positive discrimination. Deliberate policies to counteract the lasting effects of historical oppression. Targeted support to help disadvantaged groups catch up, level the field.
Like reservations or scholarships.
Exactly. Or women-only workspaces in male-dominated fields. It's not about unfair advantage, it's about correcting deep historical injustice.
Yeah.
If a group was held back for centuries, you can't expect them to compete equally on day one as if nothing happened. It's about creating truly equitable starting points.
Makes sense. What's next?
Education that teaches empathy. Equality starts not just in laws, but in classrooms, in hearts and minds. Teaching about all cultures, genders, histories, not just the dominant one. Challenging biases early.
Because no law works if people's minds are still unequal.
Precisely. Which connects to equality begins at home, where the first lessons are learned. Our sons and daughters treated the same. Same chances, same chores. Our boys encouraged to cook, express feelings. Our daughters encouraged to lead, question. The real fight often starts in the living room, shaping the next generation.
Then there's work.
Fair work, equal pay. Simple principle. Same job, same skill, same pay, regardless of gender, race, age. And crucially, recognizing and valuing domestic work and caregiving, often unpaid, mostly done by women, which underpins everything else. Some of the hardest, most vital work gets no salary. We need to see it, respect it, find ways to support it.
And public spaces.
Inclusive policies and accessible spaces, designing society for everyone from the start. Ramps for disabled people, free menstrual products, signs in multiple languages. Society is equal when public spaces don't silently exclude anyone.
What about leadership?
Voices in power, or women, Dalits, LGBTQ plus people, minorities actually represented in parliament, boardrooms, government, and do they have a real voice, not just a token seat? Democracy is whole only when all communities see themselves in power, shaping decisions.
Okay. And finally, something for all of us.
Challenging everyday prejudice. This is immediate, actionable. When someone mocks an accent, makes a racist or sexist joke, jokes about caste or religion, do we stay silent? Or do we resist, speak up, or just refuse to play along?
Those small moments matter.
Immensely. Equality lives in those tiny acts of courage. The choice to include, to listen, to care.
And globally, beyond our own borders.
A vital global responsibility. Inequality thrives between nations too. Think climate justice, rich countries cause most of the problem. Poor countries suffer the worst effects. Or vaccine equity hoarding versus struggling for access. Technology, life-saving medicine shouldn't be luxuries for the rich world.
So, fair trade, climate justice, aid.
Yes. A just world means lifting every country, recognizing shared humanity across borders, ensuring equity and opportunity and safety for all.
Wow, that's a lot. It really drives home that equality isn't just a right we claim. It's a huge responsibility we all share.
It is.
And it starts with us. Daily choices, small actions, big advocacy. It's ongoing.
Exactly. It's not an endpoint you reach and say, done. It's a continuous practice, a daily decision. Treat others as deserving of dignity, of voice, of joy. And remember, equality isn't about pulling people down to make them the same. It's about lifting everyone up, letting everyone reach their potential.
So, after walking through all of this today, the history, the philosophy, the struggles, the modern realities, it really feels like equality isn't just some distant target. It's a process, a way of seeing, a promise we keep making.
Yes, not a checkbox ticked off. It's a living, breathing aspiration, something we have to practice, protect, rethink in every generation, every interaction, every new challenge.
And yet it's easy to think, oh, everyone's equal before the law now, job done. Or I treat everyone the same, I don't see color or gender, what more can I do?
Right. But true equality, as we've seen, goes beyond just laws or polite words. It's about creating the actual conditions. Where everyone, truly everyone, can not just scrape by, but genuinely thrive. Express their full humanity.
It means seeing those invisible walls still standing in education, income, access, culture.
And having the courage, the honesty, the conviction to take them down, piece by piece. And remembering, even when we treat people differently for upliftment, to correct past wrongs, we never forget to treat them with absolute equal dignity.
Because dignity isn't negotiable.
Never. Not conditional. It's universal, inherent in every single person, no matter what they need or where they come from.
And maybe that's the real heart of it all. Equality isn't sameness. It's fairness. It's justice. It's seeing the unique light in someone else and asking, genuinely, what do you need to shine?
And then, crucially, doing something about it. Actively empowering them.
Which brings us to a final thought. Maybe a bit unsettling. As society keeps changing, new tech, AI, shifting politics, evolving cultures, Are we staying sharp enough, flexible enough, vigilant enough to spot inequality when it pops up again, maybe in new disguises we don't recognize yet?
That's the critical question moving forward, because Step 3 teaches us inequality doesn't always arrive shouting.
No, sometimes it whispers, slips into new systems, new norms, quietly. Sometimes it even smiles, pretending to be efficiency or neutrality or even progress.
And if we're not paying close attention, if we're not awake to its subtle forms, we'll miss it until it's deeply rooted again and the fight has to start all over.
So the real challenge isn't just believing in equality in theory.
No, it's practicing it, questioning its absence, reshaping our world to reflect it, and defending it fiercely, compassionately, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it shakes up what we thought we knew.
That's where the hope is, though, isn't it? In our ability to stay open, to keep learning, to be willing to reimagine the world, not just accepting it as it is, but striving for how it could be, more just, more dignified, for everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope these ideas aren't just things you heard, but maybe invitations.
Invitations?
Invitations to look around you with fresh eyes, to listen more deeply, especially to voices usually ignored, and maybe to act a little better, a little more equitably in your own life, your own community. Take some time with these thoughts. Let them sink in.
Because in the end, equality is not about making everyone the same. It's about making sure everyone matters.